So welcome to the first of the workshops in the Yoga Studies program. We're going to start with the invocation to Patanjali. So if you would like to look at it, you can. You don't have to look at it, but let's read the, I'm going to read the translation to you before we chant it. I bow before the noblest of sages, Patanjali, who gave yoga for serenity and sanctity of mind, grammar. This is page 9. Sorry, page 9. I bow to the noblest of sages, Patanjali, who gave yoga for serenity and sanctity of mind, grammar for clarity and purity of speech, and medicine for pure, perfect health. I prostrate before Patanjali, who is crowned with a 1,000-headed cobra, an incarnation of Adishesha, whose upper body has a human form, holding the conch in one arm, disc in the second, a sword of wisdom to vanquish nescience in the third, and blessing humanity from the fourth arm, while his lower body is like a coiled snake. So the first part describes the first 3 lines. And then the second paragraph describes the second 3 lines, which is a description of Patanjali, who is considered to be a god figure. Okay, so repeat after me. Yes, let's fold the palms. Yogena chittasya padena vacham. Yogena chittasya padena vacham. Malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena. Malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena. Yopakarotam pravaram muninam. Yopakarotam pravaram muninam. Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. Abahu purushakaram. Abahu purushakaram. Shankha chakra siddharinam. Shankha chakra siddharinam. Sahasra shirasam shvetam. Sahasra shirasam shvetam. Pranamami Patanjalim. Pranamami Patanjalim. Harihi Om. Harihi Om. Raise the chest and bow the head toward the heart. Bring the hands to the legs. Slowly raise the head up and open the eyes. Okay, now I want you to look at the text and just repeat after me, so that you get the pronunciation. Yogena
Yogena
chittasya
Chittasya
padena
Padena
vacham malam sharirasya
Sharirasya
cha
Cha
vaidyakena
Vaidyakena
yopakarotam
Yoga
pravaram muninam patanjalim
Patanjalim
pranjaliranatosmi
Pranjaliranatosmi
abahu purushakaram abahu purushakaram shankachakra siddharinam
Shankachakra Siddharina
sahasra shirasam
Sahasra Shirsam
shwetam
Shwetam
pranamami patanjalim.
Pranamami Patanjalim.
Okay. All right, so just a couple of comments. When you see an A that has a line over it, you hold it longer. All right, and then you see different kinds of S's. So shirasam, this one, like sheet. And then the other S is like harsh.
You have someone else on?
Who, do I? Sophia, yes. And then she can, yeah, okay, yeah. And then the other S is sa. Sa. So sha, sha, sa.
Over here is okay.
Okay. Come on in.
Here is it
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Which access to which accent?
So when it has a line over the a dash, an accent mark over the top, like shanka, it's in the front of the mouth. Shanka. Shanka. And when the S has a dot underneath, then the tongue hits the roof. Sha. Yeah.
Which
So
one is that? Shakta.
I'll just wait until everyone's settled down. Okay, so you need a book. I don't know where they all went. Maybe I didn't bring enough. I'll be right back.
You can share.
No, I have another one. Okay, page 9. Okay, so we were just going over the invocation to Patanjali. And if you look on, let me see if I can find the alphabet here. Yep. Well, that's the, let's see, look in the back of the book. Okay, page 105. Okay, so let's actually let's go to page 104. So we're working with the vowels and the consonants.
And pardon my ignorance, but this is Sanskrit.
Yes, this is Sanskrit. So you can follow the Roman letters, okay, and it'll make sense. So look at page 104 and say
Ah,
Ah,
Ah.
that's the one with the line over it. E,
E.
E, ooh, ooh. So you see it's an emphasis in length of holding. Ri, ri, lri, lri, lri. So these are those last two are not used very often. A, I, O, ow, aha, ah, ah. Repeat after me. Ah. E, ooh, ri, ri, lri, A, I, O, ow, aha. Okay. Sha, nya, tra. Okay, now go to page 105. Ka, ka, ga, ga, nya, cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. Now you have to put your tongue on the roof of the mouth. Ka, ha. So ta and ta. So one is aspirated, the second one is aspirated, that H is aspiration. So ta, no, ta, ta, T, ta, with a, yeah, ta. And now you aspirate it, ta, da. All of these have the tongue at the roof of the mouth. Da, da. You have to aspirate it. Da, na, na. Yeah. Ta, ta, da, da, na. Pa, pa, ba, bha, ma. So we're moving from the back of the throat to the front. Yeah. So the pa, pa, ba, bha, ma are all, they're called labial. And the first row is called guttural, and then it's cerebral, and then palatal, and then dental, labial. Is that right? Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Is it coming
That's
back?
how they, taught us in kindergarten.
Oh my God.
Yes, in kindergarten. Okay. All right. Ya,
Ya,
ra,
la,
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 wa.
wa.
Those are called semivowels. Okay. Now the bottom row. Sha,
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 sa,
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 ha.
ha.
Sha,
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 sa,
sa,
ha. Sha,
sa,
sha,
sa.
sa, ha. Okay. All right. Now go to page 76. And we're going to do an invocation from the Taittiriya Upanishad. You probably have heard this if you've been in the yoga world for a long time. Just repeat after me. Om
Om,
Sahana Vavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Saha Viryam Karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Again, listen. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Ma
Ma
vidvishavahai. Vidvishavahai. Om Shantihi.
Om Shanti
Shantihi. Shantihi. Okay, so when you see that H with the dot under it, you repeat the syllable. Okay, so it means it. So may we both be protected, the teacher and the student. May we both be nourished. May our study be, may we work together with vigor. May our study together be brilliant. May there be no hatred or discord between us. Om, peace, peace, peace. Okay. Let me see if I can remember. We're going to chant this a few times, and we're going to save the last line to the very end. All right, so close your eyes and just listen. Fold the palms. Sahana Bhavatu. Sahana Bhavatu. Sahana Bhunaktu. Sahana Bhunaktu. Let's repeat that. Listen. Oh. Sahana Bhavatu. Sahana Bhavatu. Sahana Bhunaktu. Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Let me do it again and you listen. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. 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 Ma vidvishavahai. Ma vidvishavahai. Oh. Now your turn. Oh. Sahana Vavatu. Sahana Vavatu. Sahana Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam karavavahai. Sahaviryam karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Ma vidvishavahai. Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. Om Shantihi, Shantihi, Shantihi. Raise the chest up, bow the head to the heart, bring the hands to the legs. Slowly raise the head and open the eyes. Okay. All right. So that is the Shanti, one of the many Shanti mantras. Okay, you can close the chanting book now. All right. So let me just give a brief overview of the 6 weekends, and then I'll start in on the lecture for this weekend. So the first weekend, we're working on defining yoga. We're done with that for now. We're working on getting the classical definition of yoga, and then a biographical discussion of B.K.S. Iyengar's life. And then the second weekend, we'll be focusing on Sankhya, which is the metaphysical foundation for yoga. So it's another one of the 6 schools, which I'll be talking about today. And then the third weekend, we'll be talking about yoga as the means of yoga, because yoga is not just, it is a state, and it is also a means, a way of getting to that state. So we'll be talking about abhyasa vairagya, or practice and dispassion or detachment. And then the fourth weekend, we'll get into the 8 limbs, Ashtanga yoga. And then the fifth weekend, we'll be focusing on those sutras of Ashtanga yoga. And then we'll be particularly focusing on the first yama niyama during that weekend, and when I introduced Ashtanga yoga. And then in the fifth weekend, we'll focus on the third of the limbs, asana, and there are sutras that go with that. And then the sixth weekend, we'll focus on the sutras on pranayama. So that's the fourth limb of Ashtanga yoga. And these are the limbs that you need to know about for the exam for the first level of certification. So we're covering that. Now this weekend, I just want to talk a little bit about the portal. And you were asked to read the Introduction to Light on Yoga, which has definitions of yoga and many philosophical concepts from Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It's a thick introduction, but a good one. And it's not for you to memorize, but it's something that you need to be familiar with, because the concepts will come up over and over again. And I also asked you to start reading the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the first pada, the first chapter, Sutras 1 through 10. So I hope that you've opened your books. But if not, then do it at some time. And then, of course, this weekend we'll be working on asanas. On every weekend we'll be working on asanas, and we're going to try to capture the sequences so that you can then practice them at home, or at least become more familiar with the names of the asanas, and learn how to write these names. And I've already talked with you about the level 1 syllabus and the Swayar app, so you know about that, those of you who are signed up for the whole 6 weekend. Okay, so any questions about the overview, about the whole thing? Okay, so the people who signed up for the whole 6 weekends, we have a classroom with a lot of materials. Yeah, that's the difference. Okay, so tonight we're talking about what is yoga. So the word is yogaha. Say yogaha. And there are many common misconceptions floating around. So you hear about goat yoga and
Stretching.
aerial yoga, acro yoga, yeah, power yoga. Well, these are names, but and some of these kinds of yoga will attach themselves, will come from the classical tradition, but most will not. Vinyasa yoga is from the classical tradition, but I don't know how much they study the classical texts. But for today, the definition of yoga that we're going to start with is union with the divine or self-realization. So yoga is union with the ultimate divine or realization of the self. Okay, now, so yoga is a school that developed out of the Upanishads, out of the Vedas. Not the Upanishads, the Vedas. So the Vedas are the oldest scriptural texts from the Indus River Valley. So what we call India, what they've called Bharat, what the Indian subcontinent, and the borders have changed, and we don't know if it's indigenous or Aryan, but it's coming from the Vedas. And also, and the Vedas date back to about 1500 BC, between 1500 and 500 BC. And out of the Vedas, these old scriptural texts, 6 different schools of thought, of philosophy developed, and they're called Shat Darshana. Shat Darshana. So Shat means 6, and six.
Oh.
6, and Darshana is auspicious view, an auspicious view. And so how that's different from the word philosophy is that all of these 6 darshanas are all about liberation or moksha. So in contrast to Western philosophies, where maybe they're concerned with truth or the love of theory, here it is all about spiritual liberation. All of these views, and all of these 6 schools take the Vedas as scripture.
In Vedas are writings.
Yes,
Oh.
they're writings, and
who did those writings?
Oh, no, we can't.
Who knows?
Rishis, like
Rishis,
old
seers.
Rishis. So Veda, I will finish fast. So Vedas was given by, I don't know, Ganesha, you know that God with, yeah. So he wrote everything, and then it got transferred. So it was never meant to be like read a book. It was always meant to be to tell a story, because the story you keep on telling, and it gets into you. So it was always like a union and tell a story rather than get a book and read it.
Yes, oral tradition is much more important because sound is more subtle than sight in the elements. So yes, and the oral tradition is much older. I'm also going to sit in Virasana. Okay.
And just to, you have listened to that last invitation that you didn't know, so that also is to an invitation by hearing them.
Yes. Right, and also these are sacred sounds, so it's not just hearing anything, you're hearing something that's been chanted for thousands of years.
I felt it. It felt like different.
Yeah, because these are vibrations.
Yes, I felt it.
So the sound vibrations get to
Yeah.
Was like a few weeks ago when you were teaching us one of those pranayama exercises.
Yes.
The where it was nasal, it was, there were just different, it impacted different ways, like in your body or cavities, I don't know.
Yes, right. Lam, Wam, Ram, Yam, Ham. Right. So those are the elements. Yes, and those have different vibrations in the body.
Like this.
All right, so make a roll, yeah, and then see if you can sit in Virasana. If not, then you can get a chair. Okay, so the Sanskrit language developed out of these sacred sounds that were known to affect the body. Okay, it's not the other way around. It's not like, oh, Sanskrit was designed and then they discovered these sounds. No, they discovered these sounds that vibrate in the body and have by seers, by rishis, and then the language was developed systematically after that.
And the other reason they always wanted not to go and read a book, but sit in union and tell it like a story so that everybody can ask questions and contemplate. So everything was based on contemplation. You have to contemplate when you are doing yoga with yourself.
Shravana, manana,
Yeah.
nididhyasana. So the way that you learn is Shravana, hearing, manana, discussing your doubts, asking questions. Nididhyasana, meditation, contemplation, living the truth. Okay, so all right, so the yoga is found in these texts that are in the first millennium, first 1,000 years before the Common Era. The Vedas, the Mahabharata, which is considered itihasa, right? It's history, and Ramayana, and the Bhagavad Gita is part of Mahabharata. So this is a huge epic tale between a war between two families, and the Ramayana is a story about Ram. And there are yogis that appear in that, like Vasishta and Valmiki, and I'm thinking about the asana, Vishvamitra. Yeah, so yoga is mentioned in these texts, but it's much older than 1,000 years. It's 4,000 years where there's archaeological evidence, because there are etchings and caves and objects that show yogis in meditation positions. And then, of course, if you talk to the Iyengars or real practicing yogis, they will say it is from time immemorial. So no beginning. As long as time immemorial, as long as there's been humanity, there's been yoga.
In Bhagavad Gita, the Krishna
Mm-hmm.
Himself, like the Krishna, his name is Yogeshwar. So he is the biggest yogi of all, Yogeshwar.
Yogeshwara, yes. Okay, so then let me just take this. So next is Bhagavad Gita describes 4 different types of yoga, and these are karma yoga, bhakti, dhyana or raja yoga, and oh gosh, how could I forget? Yoga of action, yoga of service, yoga of love, yoga of meditation. Oh, this is embarrassing.
No, I'm also yes.
You said 4, you just
Four,
said
yeah.
action, love, service.
No, but
and meditation.
No,
Karma yoga,
karma yoga is service, selfless service.
Bhakti yoga, Raj yoga.
Can't remember the other one. Okay, but anyway, Patanjali, but the yoga that's considered classical yoga is Raja Yoga. It's also called Dhyana Yoga, and this is the yoga of Patanjali. And this text where Patanjali has penned down the 196 aphorisms dates back about 2,000 years. So sometime, maybe 500 BC, something like that. Maybe a little bit more recent than that. But, and in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, yoga is defined as chitta vritti nirodhaha. So that chitta is mind stuff. Vritti is movement, turning, modification. And nirodha is stop, cessation, restraint. What?
I remember. Jnana.
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 Oh, yeah, okay, Jnana yoga, okay. And Jnana yoga is studying texts. Yeah, so Vedanta is considered.
So 4 yoga and Bhagavad Gita. Karma, Dhyan, Bhakti, and Jnana.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so yoga, and I forgot to mention the 6 schools. So the 6 schools are Sankhya, which is the metaphysical foundation, philosophical foundation of yoga. And then yoga provides the techniques for Sankhya. The same idea of liberation is in yoga and Sankhya, with a little bit of difference in that Sankhya is non-theistic and yoga is theistic. And then there's Nyaya, which is a school of logic, and Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa is the earlier part of the Vedas that focuses on rituals and rules for priests for ceremonies, but also interpretation, the analysis, linguistic and analytics. And then there is Vedanta, which is the later part of the Upanishads. And this is Jnana Yoga. This is monism. This is the idea that the Atman, the true self, is the same thing as God. So what's outside is inside. There's no difference. And this idea was kind of brought to America by Emerson and Thoreau, and also by Swami Vivekananda in 1893 when he came for the World Parliament of Religions. And Swami Vivekananda was a very educated man. He was a British citizen. So, I mean, as they were in the Commonwealth, but educated in Western style schools. But also he was a monk. He was a Vedanta monk. And he established the Vedanta societies in New York and in San Francisco. Vedanta is a wonderful school of thought. It's very nice. I listen to Vedanta lectures by Swami Sarvapriyananda all the time, and it complements yoga. Okay, so that's the 6 schools, right? We got Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Mimamsa, Vedanta, and one other one, Vaisheshika, and that's the one I don't know much about, atomism. So I know very little about that. There's very little information about that. Okay, so 6 different schools, Shat Darshanas.
And where are those Patanjali? I mean,
Yoga. So
you said there are 6 schools of yoga.
Nope.
No.
6 schools, Vedic schools.
Oh, Vedas. Oh, I see.
They all came out of the Vedas, the earliest scriptural writings of Hinduism. All of these schools have in common that they take the Vedas as scripture, as divine sources written by rishis, giving the truth. Now, there are other schools of thought in India that are considered heterodox, and these are Buddhism and Jainism, to name 2. So they do not base themselves on the Vedas. Just to give you a kind of the landscape. So when you think yoga, you think Patanjali. That's what you should think. Classical yoga is based on Patanjali. Patanjali and Bhagavad Gita.
No, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're.
Patanjali is a man?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, he's a snake. No. With 1,000 heads. Yeah. So there's a legend. Yeah. And but then, there's someone called Vyasa, who is the first commentator. And we don't know who Vyasa was. Vyasa is a commentator on many of the scriptures.
He was a rishi.
He was a rishi. Okay.
Well,
So Shesha is the spine, considered the spine of Vishnu.
Okay.
When he
Yep.
lies, and that's the yoga is all to know this
The spine.
the soul of the body. So Vishnu,
Adishesha.
Adishesha.
Yeah.
So Vishnu, if you see under ocean, he sleeps, and the Shesha is under him, the spine, kind of like a snake,
Yeah.
and that Adishesha is the spine of all human, all of us. So when we say what is out, that is in.
What is
We
that?
all
Part of it.
Yeah, so
Ah,
we consider yourself as a Vishnu, and this is
Holding up.
like the spine is our soul. That's where in the end everybody has to, when you start yoga, that's where you have to go.
Part of the structure of it.
It is part of it, but it doesn't resonate in the Western mind because we can't imagine. We don't have this imagining in our culture. So, and this wasn't really taught to us.
mhm.
And in fact, when Guruji was allowed to teach in London and in the West, he was prohibited from talking about Hindu religion. Prohibited.
Wow.
Just teach the physical aspect. They were interested in the posture. Yeah. Okay. So so yoga came to the West through Swami Vivekananda, and that's in 1893. I talked about Emerson and Thoreau. They had read Hindu texts like Bhagavad Gita, and they had written things about Hinduism, about Brahma, about yoga. And then Swami Vivekananda came in 1893, and he was a renowned scholar in India. He was a promoter of the sciences, the Tata family. He collaborated with to help create what would become IIT, India Institute of Technology. So he was a foremost thinker in India, and he spread Hinduism, yoga, Vedanta in the West, in New York, San Francisco. Then later on in the early 20th century, Yogendra, someone named Yogendra came, and that was in 1919, and then 1925, Paramahansa Yogananda, who later wrote Autobiography of a Yogi, came, and he taught some postures and some philosophy and meditation. But for our purposes, the two major gurus were T. Krishnamacharya and Swami Shivananda. And our lineage comes from Krishnamacharya. So Krishnamacharya, if you look on Wikipedia, it'll say he's the founder of modern yoga. Krishnamacharya had degrees in all 6 of these schools. So he would.
Krishnamacharya was like Iyengar, and before that was Krishnamacharya.
Yes, because he was Iyengar's guru, and he was the guru of Pattabhi Jois, who invented the Ashtanga yoga system. What's called Ashtanga yoga, the brand. Well, they each became gurus in their own right. They're stemming from the same lineage. Yeah. And then there was a woman named Indra Devi who taught stars in Hollywood, and she was the first woman taught at the Yoga Shala by Krishnamacharya. So what did I want to say about that? Yes, so Krishnamacharya came, okay. And of the disciples of Krishnamacharya, the male disciples, Pattabhi Jois, there was also Desikachar, who was Krishnamacharya's son, and then B.K.S. Iyengar. Pattabhi Jois, unfortunately, there were many reports of sexual abuse, and so that was a problem in their system. We've never had that problem in Iyengar yoga, not from Iyengar. And when we did discover that problem with one of the senior teachers in the United States, he was removed from the certification, from using the Iyengar name. So it's not a rampant problem in our community. It has been in certainly in Bikram yoga, which is not part of this lineage. Bikram was taught by somebody named Ghosh, who was the brother of Paramahansa Yogananda, author of Autobiography of a Yogi.
Oh.
Gosh was.
The brother of
Yogananda.
yes.
Oh.
And Ghosh was a bodybuilder. Yeah. So so the Bikram developed this system of 26 poses. He just teaches the same series. Yeah. And in the heat, and unfortunately, there are many reports of sexual abuse in that community.
Oh, yeah, he had to run.
He had to run.
Yeah.
He left. Okay, so to understand, yes, ask.
Like when Guruji used to teach, because I think this abuse, sexual abuse and all is because you have to be like adjusting and everything. So I have this question in my mind, like back then he might be adjusting and everything, right? So how come still if you see there is this thing where you cannot touch? Like
That's in America.
oh okay.
Yeah, right.
So because we had a problem with a senior teacher who was a direct student of BKS Iyengar,
Oh.
our national association had to come up with rules for affirmative informed consent. May I touch this part of your body for this purpose?
And that has also spread out pretty much everywhere, teachers to students, in the psychedelic world, you also have that, like you're not allowed to touch. If you're gonna touch or put somebody's hand when you're having a session, then you have to ask, it's, so I think it's because the rampant sexual abuse that exists in society.
Mm-hmm. But in India, they don't.
They don't.
And you used to get in trouble, when they come around and adjust you, if you put up a fight, you're going to get yelled at by Gita or yeah, these people are trained, you need to be open to their adjustments. They know what they're doing. Yes.
They don't ask.
Mm-mm. You kind of give yours, yeah.
Oh, with your,
Yes, it's assumed. It's part of the culture.
Yeah, I remember first time when I went to yoga, I was like 14 or 15 and in India, it was not Iyengar, but in India, like at that age, we started from pranayam.
Yes.
First to get that focus before asana. And then I think third or fourth day we did bridge pose and he was holding me like this. I mean, for a 15-year-old, it is awkward when a man is holding you from your torso. But he was like, "Be, get that strength. Now I'm leaving you," and like that. And I mean, I can still remember because I was 15 and I was like, "This is so awkward."
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was this guru-sishya relationship. You had to trust the guru.
I mean, I think to your point, come into it with the acceptance that you're wanting that physical guidance. I think and besides just like the overtones of like what I've heard of the bigger yoga scandal, which I really don't know much about. I think that was more behind closed doors.
Oh, yeah.
Things that were
Oh, yeah.
beyond the capacity of the class.
Right,
I mean,
yeah, no, totally,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a very good
It's-
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of like the rules of engagement. I mean,
Sure.
those are the rules of engagement for I thought. You know, when you assume that you're gonna be adjusted, you're gonna be touched, but also always with respect.
Yes.
Yeah,
And they do teach you, you know, how to touch, that you use your fingertips. You're not going to, never touch the breast. You don't really touch the abdomen, although I have been adjusted on my abdomen, unless you really know the student and you
Sure.
ask. There's a way of, you don't massage, you don't pet. It's a quick and sharp adjustment to give a direction. And you're not supposed to use muscular strength. You're supposed to use leverage, but not muscular strength. So it will get a chance to do some hands-on partner work, so you learn how to do some adjustments and because adjustments are extremely valuable.
Yeah.
They're better than props many times. The sensitivity of the hands is more, of course, than if you're holding a prop.
Yeah, I mean, there's times where, of course, the anatomy, we should learn to kind of understand our anatomy and parts, but you're so focused on several things that by that point, I'm like, just adjust me. I don't know what you mean.
right,
I'm
exactly.
giving you
Yeah.
my blessing, please, adjust away.
Well, they say, for us, they say instruct, you know, several different ways, and then if that doesn't work, then adjust or introduce a prop.
I have a
Yeah.
question about mirrors. I noticed there are no mirrors here. And it's very different from what I've ever done, like ballet, gymnastics, things like that. Like, you're always kind of like, you learn to like look at yourself and how you're like positioned. Is that something that is a negative in Iyengar yoga, that you just don't want to look at and just feel how you are balanced?
Well, it's not traditional, for one thing. They didn't do it at the Yogashala. They didn't have mirrors in that studio. They, you know, but also think about why that might make sense. What happens when you have a mirror in front of you?
Staring at
Focus
yourself.
on you and
The external part of
yeah,
you. Right. So we're trying to build that internal understanding, the sensitivity. So yoga is a process of going from outside inward. It's a process of involution. And so we start with things that are easily understandable, like hands and feet, arms and legs, hips and buttocks and chest. And then, you know, later on, it's going to be sacrum and tailbone and bottom floating ribs and bottom of the sternum, top of the sternum, lower sacrum, upper sacrum. But you try to go from the gross to the subtle. And if you're always looking at a mirror, then you have your mind externalized and on the gross form. That's why. Now, having said that, sometimes it is good to look in the mirror, and because you'll catch some habits that you don't catch otherwise. Like if you constantly have one arm lower, or, you know.
When it gets difficult is like the need to put balance. Like, is my knee going over? I can't tell. And I would love to kind of take a snapshot of myself and go, okay, is the alignment there? That I know that's maybe it's not in what we should be relying on. We should be feeling whether
You actually can see that. You should be able to see that. Yeah.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Question about hatha yoga. Can you speak on that? Derived from?
Well, it comes from a 15th century book called Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And Hatha means sun and moon. And I really don't know that much about it, but it's the physical aspect of yoga. So Hatha Yoga Pradipika discusses physical postures, asanas, So it is one of the texts that we refer to. But again, it's so much later. It's not the philosophical part. It's
But it comes out of like this Patanjali Yoga Sutra.
no.
It's not a
Patanjali,
part of-
well, Patanjali Yoga Sutras only has three sutras on asana. Out of 196, there are only 3 sutras that speak about asana. Yeah.
That was something.
So the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is considered the meditation manual. It's the manual about in India.
Try to tell me kind of like where that fell into like the sprinkle of it from like the Vedic school of thought down into what it is now. I just also see where that lies. You said that's later on.
Yes, Middle Ages. Yeah. So it's part of the tradition, but so Hatha Yoga Pradipika describes the physical postures and their benefits. Like Mahamudra, you can digest anything. You can digest poison if you do Mahamudra, or these powers will come to you if you sit in Siddhasana for 12 days, or so there are some things that are quite mythical. But it's a good question. People use the word Hatha Yoga just to describe postures. So it means that they're not connected to Patanjali. They're not bringing you the philosophy. They're not coming from the eight limbs school, or Raja Yoga, or Kriya Yoga, which is all in Patanjali. These 3 different types of yoga. So. All right, so yoga, I said, is the state of the cessation of the fluctuation of chitta. And so it's also a means. Now let's talk about what is chitta. So chitta is sometimes described as mind, but the problem is that in the West, we consider mind to be not body. And in yoga, mind and body are the same system. So in other words, chitta, mind stuff, let's call it, it's material. Your thoughts, your feelings, your memories, your imaginings they all have vibration, and vibration is movement of matter. So it's not something, it's something that you have to transcend. The mind is not freedom. The mind is on the way to freedom, but it will not, so intellectualizing things will not make you free. You're still involved in chitta vritti. Okay.
Chitta is the mind, and vritti is
movement.
movement.
So, but remember, mind is not, so chitta includes 3 things. Buddhi, intelligence, manas, it's like hardware, software. No, buddhi is like software, manas is like hardware, and yes, and ahankara is the I maker, the sense of identity. So those 3 things. So maybe brain is hardware and chitta is software. Maybe that's what it is. I have to look at that again. But so in yoga, the idea is that you can change your mind stuff. You can change the way you feel. You can change the way you understand things. All of these things are malleable because they're part of matter. They're not the eternal part of reality. They are the moving part of reality. So Sankhya tells us that there's 2 realities. It's a dualistic philosophy. Reality is 2. And these 2 things are eternal. And one of them is Purusha, which is self, the light of awareness. the light that illuminates consciousness. And then the other is prakriti, translated as nature. And nature is stuff. From the finest, most refined, like chitta, to the things that we touch and can grasp with our senses. See, feel, hear, taste, smell. So, but bringing this mind stuff to a quiet state where it doesn't move is the aim of yoga. It is also when you're in yoga, you're in that state, that's called samadhi. Yoga is samadhi. So that is one definition of yoga. Yoga is samadhi. Samadhi is chitta vritti nirodha, this complete quietening of the movement of mind stuff. Now, there are some people who are born with the ability to stop the mind. They've, according to the lore of yoga, they were in previous incarnations, they did their work, or this was given by grace, or they spent many incarnations practicing yoga, and so in this incarnation they can just meditate. And there are child prodigies who can do that. There are few people who can do that, but most of us cannot. And so for those people on that level, there's something called abhyasa vairagya. So Raja Yoga, the means of yoga are practice and detachment. That's it. And practice is the continual effort to still the mind, and vairagya is going beyond thirst, going beyond cravings. Now that's what those yogis can do, and that's how they stay on their path. Then there's something called Kriya Yoga. It's a medium level of yogi. And this person practices tapaha, which is zeal, religious zeal for practice, willingness to undergo austerities for spiritual growth. Swadhyaya, which is usually understood as japa, or chanting. And then Ishvara Pranidhana, surrender to the divine. Those are the 3 acts of Kriya Yoga for that accomplished yogi at the medium level. Now then there's us at the lower level, and we have Ashtanga Yoga. And so we have to learn yamas and niyamas. So the universal moral ethical principles, the personal observances, asana, breath control techniques, withdrawal of the senses, concentration, meditation, and then samadhi, deep absorption. So we have an 8-step path, 8-limb path that we have to go through. And many of us will never reach samadhi. We just practice the asanas for fitness. We think, yeah, I like yoga because it makes me feel good. So we think of yoga as postures, we think of it as exercise, but it is really this deep thing that is supposed to be a means of liberation, complete and utter freedom.
Yeah, this is what I was like, it was in my mind, it's about detachment from your body, but you see around it's more attachment to your body, the way.
Oh, of course.
Meaning,
True.
You mean the whole
yoga
system?
is more attachment to your body? Is that
No,
what you said?
the way you see people doing yoga, it's more about
Oh, yes.
attachment to your body rather than being detached to your body. That is always in my mind when I go to like any other yoga class or random.
That's interesting. Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it doesn't surprise me. No.
It's basically cardio spin class, but
Yeah.
with, awesome. But yeah.
Music and light.
Yeah.
I can't do yoga with music.
I can't either, I don't.
No, I know, yeah. But I guess, and this is like, for me, when I have practiced yoga and they talk about yoga is the cessation, and the samadhi and all of that, it's like, wow, when am I going to reach the point where yoga is not exercise for me, but is a spiritual practice. I have not. There are maybe sometimes glimpses that I'm having a spiritual moment during yoga, but normally it's a fight in the mind
Mhm.
of that. Between, it's kind of a fight between my body, what my body can do, and my thoughts, and and not sort of a bliss, a moment of bliss.
Mm.
I agree with you completely.
Right?
Same thing I feel. Same thing during doing asanas. I never once felt that I'm connected to my breath. I'm always connected to the room, to the teacher, or
Yeah.
to the people beside me. That the hand can reach that much, mine is not reaching. It's always constant comparison, and I always think that I'm not doing right.
Well, just keep in mind the ultimate purpose. So,
Which is the cessation of the fluctuation of the mind.
or self-realization, union with the divine, or self-realization through the cessation of the fluctuations of mind stuff. So, what?
It's so fascinating. My family practiced Buddhism, and Buddhism's big practice is meditation for the same goal, for the same reason, is to cease the mind, to get connected to the true and authentic self. And I think it's just so beautiful that this ancient text just kind of come to this merging of just like being here. It's all within here. And so I just said that it was fascinating.
And does it connect to the fact that that we are God within? That we
Yes,
are all God?
yes,
And
absolutely.
By ceasing the mind, you get connected with your
Cosmic self.
with your God.
Cosmic self.
With
So,
your
which,
God within.
yes.
Yeah, samadhi is when the total absorption, where the object of meditation become or merges with
The seer.
this. Yeah, so it's
Your awareness merges with the object, which is the self, instead of sensory objects or memories or mind objects. Yes.
And that fact connects you at the end with the unconditional love that you should feel for yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
The samadhi is what Christ felt on the cross. That's what samadhi.
Say that again.
When the Christ was on the cross, that was samadhi. What he felt on the cross. Like, can you imagine yourself being on the cross,
Right.
nailed, putting on, and you feel nothing?
Right.
You have to go
So
beyond
that was
beyond pain, beyond
Yeah.
suffering, and beyond
Right.
thirst. So all of these 6 schools are for liberation and liberation from suffering. And then I just wanted to mention that Buddhism, although Buddhism is so vast as well. Yeah, but they don't believe in a self. There's no God and no self, and yet they do chants to goddesses. So I don't really understand.
Oh,
But
wow, I never knew that.
well, there's Tibetan Buddhism, there's Zen Buddhism.
Class that I study under is Zen Buddhism, and they believe that the path to liberate your mind is the Bodhi path, and to make that vow means that you recognize that you will liberate yourself as one vessel, and you will also incarnate to help other people liberate from their suffering. And you're right, they don't believe in, it's not, let's say, it's not as, what am I looking for?
There's no stable self, right? It's changing phenomena, right? Isn't that right? That you're just watching changing phenomena all.
Yes, and you find your middle path. Once you can recognize that, you find your middle path where you can walk in neutrality. There's no fluctuations. There's no strong desire or strong emotion. You are just in the middle path where you are neutral. That way, the right path, the right decision, the right choice comes from that.
So when you chant, you are not chanting to Buddha, like the chant, when you chant in Buddhism. It's not that you are chanting to Buddha, it's just for like,
They
I
they do
do.
revere Buddha and chant.
I believe it's like, you know how you describe the rishis, like the old masters, it's for the old yogis, the Buddha was one of like a rishi. And then he had disciples that had other rishis, and they've gone and then they reincarnated without themselves to come back to liberate other sentient beings. And that's what I think about when I think about the Buddha, because he was a real person. And then but he came here, but I don't know what that day is, like where that timeline falls. But he was a real person.
Prince, wasn't he?
he was
Yes,
Yeah.
he came for money,
Yeah.
supposedly. I studied Buddhism with the Champai.
Me too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they're amazing.
Yes.
And if I recall, he actually went into meditation for 10 years.
Mhm.
And he relinquished all his, you know, money and
Worldly
worldly,
pleasure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for 10 years he was alone in somewhere meditating. And he embodied the Buddha.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are many
Many schools.
and many similarities.
Oh,
You don't, I mean, there are many Iyengar yoga senior teachers who are Buddhists. So they don't believe in God, they're not theistic, and they do Buddhist meditation, but they practice asana and they know the sutras of Patanjali. So, but you just need to understand that the roots are different. That on the deep level, if you want to understand Patanjali, try not to mix methods. Try to
these methods, what do you mean?
don't like you don't when you're learning something, you shouldn't be like a dirty pot, right? A dirty pot, you add something to, right? You want to be a clean pot. You don't want to be a leaky pot who forgets everything, or a pot that's full already and can't take in anything more. You want to be an empty and clean vessel. So try to learn yoga on its own terms and try not to do too much comparison, or you'll get confused.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Okay, shall we break now and get ready for a little bit of asana and pranayama? Okay. So that's a long time sitting. So have a 5-minute break.